Yo, what's up, guys? So today I'm going to share with you what's possibly my biggest pet peeve. It's something that I see running rampant on social media. It's something that I see pervading the mindset of most people. Now, you're not most people. You're listening to a podcast called Amplified Impact. You are committed to living a life beyond the apex. Like, you are trying to be the best version of yourself. So you might be, on the upper end of the spectrum in terms of your accomplishments, your abilities, your perspectives in the world. So just understand that you are an outlier already just by the fact that you're listening to a podcast like this. So pat yourself on the shoulder. Now, most people, they don't see the world similarly. They are still in a position where they look at the world as a thing that's happening to them and not happening for them. And so there's still a lot of, they're very reactionary, and they're pointing to all these things in life as the reason for their limitations, the reason why they're not where they want to be. And I totally relate to this because this is where I was for the first 30 years of my life, in particular with ADHD. I pointed to that as the reason why I wasn't achieving the greatness that I felt I had inside of me. So I'm a professional at living that life and being in that place where everything is happening to me and I am just the victim. And I've talked about this before. You can either be the victim or you can be the hero, but you can't be both. You got to choose one or the other. And one of the things that really frustrates me, my biggest pet peeve, is when people argue harder for their limitations than they do for their potential. And what I mean by that is I put out a lot of content around personal development, around personal finance, around building businesses. And a lot of it is, it stems from this perspective of you can do this. I believe in you. Regardless of where you are in life right now, you have the skills and capacity to go and improve, to get better, and then to fundamentally change this path that you're on. And I know that because I was there. And so I take this position of I know this is possible for you. And most people, I'd say most people that engage with my content come back and they're like, thank you, that's inspiring, I feel motivated, I know I can do this. Sometimes it's dark, but I believe in myself, and knowing that you have this and like this tip, this is very helpful for me. So that's the position that most of you guys listening to this take. But there is a subset of people who will hear these messages and they will come back and say things like, that's easy for you to say. Right? Like, you don't understand. That's easy for you because you're a white male born in the United States to a middle-class family. And I totally get all that stuff. Like, if you're a minority, if you're, a woman, if you are living in a third world country, like, game is harder for you than it is for me, for sure. We were dealt different cards, right? But people will spend so much of their life pointing to all the reasons why they can't succeed and defending those reasons, like, tooth and nail. Like, people will argue until they're blue in the face for their limitations. You try to take away the fact that they are, identifying with some ideological group think that has manifested itself in the form of saying, this is the reason why I'm being oppressed. Like, I don't want to like call it any particular groups here, but this happens a lot, especially on social media, where it's very easy to cluster into these ideological groups. That's a different story for a different day. But one of the things, and I just see it so much, is people pointing out reasons why the advice that you're giving won't work for them. Case in point, one that really annoyed me the other day was somebody who didn't have the full context of my story. So you look at me and you see like a middle-aged white male, and you just kind of you make some presumptions. Totally understandable. I get that. But when I'm sharing the things that have worked for me in terms of like unlocking my focus and becoming like a higher functioning member of society, this person took the message and was like, that's easy for you to say, you're not, but for us neurodivergents, they use that word. I don't love that word, but I understand where it's coming from. They're like, but for us neurodivergents, it doesn't work like that. Not understanding what they didn't fundamentally understand about my story was that I, by their definition, am neurodivergent. I have severe ADHD. And I pointed this out to them, and they came back and then tried to argue why my ADHD was not as severe as theirs. And now it became like this almost pissing match of like, who is more neurodivergent? And I was like, okay, I'm just going to exit this conversation. I can't get through to you. We're not in a position to actually have a conversation and move meaningfully forward. So let's just save ourselves the time and energy. But it was frustrating to me because so many people adopt this stance that my limitations are bigger than your limitations. And rather than moving forward regardless of that and saying, I'm going to do the best that I can, they hold on to that, just playing the victim card, so that it's easier. It's easier than the alternative of going out there and trying to live in alignment with your potential. And I get it. It is hard. It is scary. And some people are, they're starting at a different place in the race than others, like myself. Like, I started further ahead than many people, and I totally understand that. But it doesn't change the fact that the universe doesn't care. The universe doesn't care where you started. It doesn't care how you feel about where you started. It simply cares what you do. You have your cards, the universe has dealt them to you, and you can bitch and moan about how somebody else's cards are better, but it's not going to change the fact that your cards suck. So the only thing that you can control, you can influence, is how you play the cards that you have. How do you play the hand that you have? And within every hand, there is the potential for opportunity, for advantage, if you can figure out the winning strategy and then apply it consistently over a long enough period of time. And maybe you don't. Maybe you lose regardless of how well you play the hand, because the hand just freaking sucks. But it's the best alternative that you have. It's the best option. Like, because what else are you going to do? Just sit there and pity and wallow that you have shitty hands and you're not going to play it? Like, it doesn't work. And so many people I see out there are just arguing harder for why they can't do something than they are willing to argue for why they could do it. And so I'm encouraging you, if you're here, if you're listening, and listen, like, we all slip and slide into this. It's not like this binary, oh, I never do that, versus, oh, I always do that, right? It's a spectrum. And in different areas of our life, it's easier to play the victim versus the hero than in other areas. It's very easy these days for me to play the hero when it comes to money, when it comes to fitness. But when it comes to relationships, whether that's friendships or, deep, intimate relationships with my partners, that's an area where I'm not a hero. I don't feel like it. So it's a dichotomy to be managed, not just a binary this or that. And I encourage you to think about this today. Where are those areas of your life where you are arguing harder for your limitations than you are for your potential? And then go ahead and stop that. So I hope this brings you guys a little bit of value. Thanks for being here. I'll catch you back around these parts tomorrow. But until then, stay hyper-focused, my friend.